It's no secret, I love video games. And anyone who's played video games like me has seen mechanics in them that make you say, I want that. There are plenty of mechanics out there in the video game realm that cause players to say this, but none as infamous as the portal gun. It comes from the game series called Portal and features this mysterious gun that allows the player to shoot holes in space and time and be able to travel through these holes with the purpose of going from point A to point B without having to manually cross that distance. Seeing it in action is simple enough, but when it comes right down to it, can we make such a thing as a gun that warps the fabric of space and time? That's what we're going to find out on this episode of Stuff You've Probably Wondered with Captain McMuffin. To start off, let's go to the simplest layer of this question, how the portal gun works in the game. This gun allows you to shoot two different portals, one blue, one orange. The change in color is a representation of the completed bridge between one area and another. Let's say you wanted to cross a 10-meter gap from one side of the room to another. You simply shoot your portal gun to the wall behind you, and one to the opposite wall. You walk through the portal behind you, and voila! You've crossed the 10-meter gap in no time and no distance. Pretty ingenious, huh? Well, there's more to it than just bridging gaps. Suppose you stood on a platform 10 meters high, and you wanted to get to a different platform 20 meters high. To get up there, you would need to use a technique called flinging. You shoot your portal gun on the floor below you, and then fire another portal above you around the height of the 20-meter platform. When you jump through the portal below, the momentum of your jump would be carried over to the second portal, where you'd bridge the gap between the back wall and the 20-meter platform. It's simple physics here. Velocity equals distance by time. At this base level of understanding, we see that Newtonian physics remain intact. Your change in acceleration allows for a distance to be crossed in less time. Once you swallow the idea of being able to warp space and time with a gun, the mechanics from there seem rather easy to understand. But now we have to look at the portal gun as a piece of working machinery. So how does it work? According to a diagram released by Valve, the game's developer, the gun's inner workings are surprisingly simple. Apparently, a miniature black hole is encased within the gun, made stable by a fan blowing its particles into the hole. When fired, the fan rapidly speeds up, throwing a piece of the black hole and its constituent particles onto a nearby surface. The second portal can then be thrown onto a different surface, whether nearby or not, and the bridge between both holes is opened. The reason this works is because while both portals remain part of the same black hole, they can become connected via their opposing rotations. And this is not a wormhole, but a bridge between space and time due to rotational entanglements. Unfortunately, this type of explanation has a very technical term in the field of quantum physics. Scientific bullshit. So instead, we'll have to look at theory and what little we know about the subject matter. As it turns out, scientists are working with the idea of teleportation, but not much progress is being made. This research only involves the smallest of particles, and to change their position in space and time without violating the laws of physics, the particles must be broken down and rebuilt from scratch somewhere else. A complete redundancy in the world of portals. Besides, we see through the game that Shell, the wielder of this mysterious device, simply walks or jumps through the portals as though she were walking through a doorway. There is no whoosh of particles being ripped apart and thrown back together, or a sudden change in scenery. The user's position in time and space are changed fluidly and without transition. So to answer our elusive question regarding the portal gun, we have to speculate on three important clauses regarding the portal gun's mechanics. First, how would the portals work if they existed? Second, if the portals were to work, how much energy would be needed, and what would be the source of that energy? And third, if we were able to create portals with enough energy and they did in fact teleport us from point A to point B, how would we be affected? Let's start off with the probability of generating a portal. How would we get two holes in space and time to connect so that we can pass through them? Initially, the answer would be the science fiction geek's greatest method of explanation, the wormhole. Unlike black holes, which are most likely a doorway to nowhere, wormholes function as a bridge between one place and another. They accomplish this by folding space and time over itself, like folding a newspaper so that its opposite ends touch without having to travel a much longer distance to get from one to the other. The original idea was proposed by Albert Einstein and Nathan Rosen, and stated that there existed somewhere in the universe a bridge between one place and another. Unfortunately, the theory of general relativity created by Einstein himself would not account for this idea, because the moment a wormhole is created, it would immediately collapse upon itself. The only way a wormhole could remain stable is if something with negative mass were holding it open, and that seems highly improbable in this, our universe chock full of mass. Okay, so the wormhole theory is out, but let's keep this train wreck of a theory on the tracks. If the two corresponding portals were somehow able to connect, We'd need a source of power to keep them open, and to create them in the first place. What sort of power would do that? Well, it turns out that the universe is pretty obdurate when it comes to bending time and space. Creating a portal would take a vast amount of energy to be sure, but would that energy allow it to remain intact long enough for you to step through it even once? The short answer is no. When the portal gun fires that initial blast of energy and the portal opens, it won't stay open because the export of energy has ceased when the gun ceases firing. In essence, you'd need a constant supply of energy to keep that hole open and in a stable form, and that would require more energy used by the portal gun than is given. And even if you had an abundant supply of energy lying around, that source would need to contain more joules than a billion stars. Things aren't looking too good for our friend the portal gun, especially when we take the idea of the portal gun's effects into account. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, that the portals can function and can be sustained by a constant source of energy. When we walk through a portal, how does gravity react? How do the surrounding particles react? In the game, we see that the laws of physics will perform just as they should, but would they really in real life? The law of conservation of energy states that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, so when you walk through a portal and you skip out on all that energy and distance required to cross from point A to point B manually, where does all that energy go? This is the simplest of violations of the laws of physics, so already we're having issues even attempting to travel through a portal. This is especially apparent if you were to place one portal on the ground and one elsewhere on the ceiling. If the distance between the two portals is 10 meters, and the width of a portal is 1 millimeter, you are essentially squeezing the energy of 10 meters into the distance of a millimeter. The fourths of the drop after passing from one portal to the other would be like ramming straight into a brick wall. Furthermore, we have the issue of the feedback loop, an analogy created by Stephen Hawking. If you attended a rock concert, the singer's voice would travel through the microphone and out the speakers, but that sound would be amplified and thus find a way back into the microphone and out the speakers, reverberating infinitely. Similarly, if particles, light, and radiation were to enter a portal, they would exit and re-enter infinitely, eventually leading to the destruction of the portal. So, much to the Portal fans' dismay, the portal gun is just as improbable as traveling at the speed of light or through time. This doesn't mean that any of these may become a reality in the future, but with our current understanding of the universe, it won't happen anytime soon. It certainly would be a wonderful thing to travel instantaneously from one place to another, but for now we'll just have to accept the fact that the cake is still a lie. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have a question you'd like me to answer, leave it in the comments or email me at captainmcmuffin@gmail.com. Also in the comments, discuss the use of a portal gun. If we were to actually build a working one somehow, what could we use it for? What might the setbacks be? Regardless, I'm Captain McMuffin, and I'll see you next time on Stuff You've Probably Wondered.